on the field, we're going to talk a little bit today about how to leverage technology like AI in increasing athletic performance, fan engagement, accelerating organizational growth. And we'll also talk to these gentlemen about how do you leverage some of the skill sets of elite athletes and apply them towards high performing leaders. We have with us today Manu Ginobili. He is an NBA Hall of Famer. He is a tech entrepreneur. He's a philanthropist. I think you all know both of these gentlemen already, but very quickly also George Gregan, world rugby champion, Australian boss. Just everybody loves this guy, legend in the world of rugby, but also in technology and as a serial entrepreneur and and a philanthropist as well. And I've been so honored to be able to get to know both of you over time and just learn a little bit about you and how you bring not only your knowledge of athletics as elite athletes, but then you really combine it with tech to think about, well, how do we really use these to advance the individual, to advance the organization? It's been a ton of fun. So let's kick it off with our first question. And I'm going to start with you, Manu.
All right.
It's just fascinating, both of you, your journeys from elite at the top of your games, athletes, to tech entrepreneurs. Tell us, how did that even happen?
How did it happen? Well, it happened over time, right? It was not from like morning to night. I was always very curious. I was following, the evolution of stats and how important it was becoming into the game. Besides, I was on the side, a fan of all new technologies and science in general. So when I started to see my time in the league was starting to come to an end, I started to connect with entrepreneurs, founders, CEOs, started to ask more questions and participate in some more meetings, and I realized that it was something that I wanted to explore. Once you are an athlete, you can are an athlete forever, and I wanted to combine it with my love for tech, and I was seeing the crazy evolution of stats, fan stats, big data, and I knew it was going to be a blend in there that could be very promising, and I wanted to explore.
Fascinating. And I love that. I think over this panel, we will talk a little bit more about that phrase that you shared about athletes forever. Because one thing I've noticed in both of you as we prepared and chatted about how we want this panel, what do we want to share, is that there's a certain style of preparation that is very team-like. It's very detailed, it's in depth, it's done with great rigor and great meaning. So it's something very different than what I've experienced. Not that my friends in other circles aren't well prepared, but it's been a different feeling. So I want to hear a little bit more about that later. But that's a fascinating how you've gotten to where you are. How about you, George? Same for you. I mean, you were also, top of your game, and you've been an entrepreneur in tech, but also outside of tech, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, definitely. I think I can probably expand on what Manu was saying. Throughout the course of your career, we've seen quite a big evolution in how you look at your game using technology individually, but also as a team, and how you can get your organization better and maybe more focus on potentially what we'd call winning data. Like the winning data really matters within teams, and that's probably, I've always enjoyed that. And then we've obviously able to track that through our experience of playing sport. And you don't always win, you don't always have success, but you're always learning, and there's always a better way. I think that's what successful teams do, and successful organizations, be it businesses and companies, have that mindset. So that was intriguing. I think I know Manu won lots of things with the Spurs. He's a gold medalist at the Olympics. So we're sort of kind of naturally looking towards that because we've got that competitive mindset, but also how can we improve? And I think technology is that. It's always evolving, isn't it? And we both play sports where, there's lots of measurements, there's big data, And sometimes I think particularly recently, it's become a little bit overwhelming, but there's always good data in there. And I think you apply that to your business or to your team, and that's really can help you sort of prepare, focus on the right areas, which will hopefully help you get better. Ideally, you want to win everything you can in sport, but that's not the reality. But I'll tell you one thing that is a reality is you're learning every single day. And I think the evolution, I think we spoke previously, didn't we, Manu? Like we went from watching VCR, watching tape rewinding to what the data you can get now through the touch of a button and different platforms. It's incredible, and you can get years and years of data on a team, on a player at the base of your fingertips. And I think that learning piece is going to keep evolving, and I think that's why we're interested, because we've lived it, but we also can see where it's going. And it's just not for the players, teams, and organisations, but fans who are really engaged in sport. Like I love all my sport, and I love all that really meaningful data around sport and performance, be it individual players, teams, or how the game's going. Like I could go on forever, but the game does change. Like I look at basketball when I was watching, I became a big fan, sort of particularly early 90s, right through, to see how the game's played now with the likes of Steph Curry and the 3-pointers, and Manu's, that was his specialty too, shooting. The game has just changed, and there'll be data supporting all that and how you have to adapt. Otherwise, you probably don't get to the playoffs if you keep doing what you're doing a year or two or whatever it was. So I love that.
But you didn't need to say that we watched the VCR, George. So you are exposing us. We are the dinosaurs, the dinosaurs of sports. But it's crazy. It's crazy. You mentioned the gold medal and the data that we had in 2004. It was basically nothing, just field goals, rebounds, and very general. We had no granular data. We had no idea the things that really gave us the most bang for the buck in every possession. And now you can have unlimited data. It's just the questions now matter, right? What you're looking for, what you want the algorithm to tell you, and what are you really looking for. So sports changed a lot in these 20 years, and it's been fun. And as you said, it's nutritious. I mean, you're learning constantly, because it's every year there's something new, different cameras, different movement detection, jumping, this distance, fan engagement now, and fan analytics. The sports is evolving like crazy.
Well, I think that's fascinating because what you're both saying, you're talking about we're athletes forever. And I think that's definitely what I hear from both of you is we're always wanting to learn, and we're also competitive, right? But in that competitiveness isn't just winning for winning's sake. I can see that you both have a very deep thirst for knowledge, and that's how you've accelerated your knowledge of technology so deeply. And that, I think, is really the analog for what we can all learn from both of you, right? You've got to have that thirst to learn. You've got to adapt to change. You got to innovate. I just got to say, Manu, I was watching this video about the Euro step, the old Euro step. And the reason is because I know that was something that was established in Europe, but then became popularized in the NBA in large part due to you. And that's kind of a form of innovation. You take something used somewhere else and you bring it to a new environment. That's a form of adding new value. And what I also thought was really interesting about that is, as I was watching one of the videos, you said something like, you're never going to find your defender in the same place. So you got to respond to it quickly, and you got to find a solution, which is, again, that mindset that I think elite athletes have to have is the same thing that will help us navigate the future. And like George, you were saying about data and how it can be so overwhelming. Because you used to have very little, right? You used to watch
Yes.
the VHS TV.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure
It's a DCR, but it's a VHS. It's true.
And now it's just so much data. I think to your point about, George, what is the right question, right? What is the problem we're solving? And what are the questions we have to ask to get there? So to that end, say more about how you think technologies like AI and others will impact the future of sports.
It's a really good question. And like, I don't have all the answers, but I think one way you can use technology, talking about AI, in a really smart way to make things more efficient, to sort of maybe make that needle in the haystack, there's less hay, so you're going to find it a bit quicker, which is really, really important. I think I'd probably use rugby and as an example. Over the course of the season, you might start the season in a certain way. You prepared long, hard in the off season. You're working on your technical, your individual skill sets to help you play strategically in a certain way. But there might be some changes which occur, be it through officialdom, be it through the way it's officiated, which you have to make an adjustment. And there should be some data around what is happening, and the teams which adjust quickly make that adjustment in their game and are able to move on and move forward. The ones who don't, and they don't see that trend or they don't see that change happening quickly enough, they're scratching their head sort of probably towards the end of the season, maybe the end of the season, saying, what happened? But the smart ones, because they're looking in the right areas, I think that's how you could utilize technology and AI just to see where you're at. Because I'm not sure what it was like with the NBA. Every night, because you're playing an 82-game season with playoffs, ours was, I'm just using Super Rugby. It was a 12-game season with 2 weeks, so it's 14 games. But over the course of that 14 games, I think there's probably potentially 2 or 3 adjustments you'd have to make throughout that short season on how you played, but knowing exactly what you're looking at and understanding your game and understanding, I guess, those different variables which occur through the course of a season gives you a bit of a competitive edge. So if you're looking, you've got to be looking in the right areas, and I think you could use AI to help you with what is the trend and what are we doing well and what are we missing, and what can we do to improve.
100%. What do you say? I know.
I mean, the areas in which it can help you improve are basically unlimited, because you can add talent detection. The more data we have, the better decisions you'll make. You can do, study your opponent, study your strength, but injury prevention, that's another huge one. That's very important for the whole sports, because you want players to be playing. If you miss a month, a year because of a bad injury, we all lose. The fans lose, the team lose, and the organization lose, and the sport loses. So the more data we gather, not only with the amount of running or jumping that an athlete is doing, that now we can quantify everything, is that the materials we're using, the shoes we are using. You can go back and see every type of material that every player used when they got injured, and maybe we'll find something new, and we can avoid this type of injuries to happen again. So it's really unlimited, even for the broadcast. There's so many things you can add to make the game even more entertaining. Knowing about the fans, as I said before, fans being more engaged with the game through either devices or in arena entertainment systems. So I'm fascinated by this. So there are so many areas that we can tackle, and there's always going to be an opportunity there.
Yes, and these are great points, right? So it's about fan engagement, it's about growth of an organization, it's about preventing injuries. And again, one of the things I always think about is the beauty of talking about this with both of you and thinking about your perspective is you have these 2 areas of knowledge. And I always think about it as the practitioner's perspective, because the practitioner, in this case, the elite athlete with a deep knowledge of technologies and technology, their applications, is really, really powerful. It's very different than sitting completely outside of it. I'm not saying that's not valuable. I feel whenever I have observed organizations that put the practitioner front and center and bring that voice in, they tend to have a lot more impact, because you have a different lens, because you have more empathy in some cases, because you've been in those shoes, you've really connected with fans, you've certainly understood what it's like to be an elite athlete, and you understand what it takes to be in that continuous learning mindset, even when it's really hard, and to break through that. So I love that.
Well,
I think it talks about the importance of diversity and coming from different backgrounds, different jobs, because maybe we were not teachers, right? We were players, so we can give the optic of the pro athlete that did this, valued this, and but the teacher can can talk about what made players better in the past, what worked for him, and they can ask better questions on how to quantify or measure the work you are doing and see the improvements you're getting. But then, you bring out even a fan, a crazy fan that, that's been for 30 years watching everything. And, they can add value too. And then the mathematician and the data analysts and the one that has been scouting with only the two eyes for 40 years and can add a lot of value. And the 22-year-old kid that sees things different. So, every team gotta bring people from different backgrounds, ideally even countries. Like, we can show here one from, Australia and South America. So I value diversity and different backgrounds a lot in every organization and every decision making that you want to do.
Yeah, I agree. And that's a good point too, Manu, in terms of, look, yeah, we're not teachers, we've got our experience, but we're all, I think, what was consistent with all of that, even the crazy, the lunatic fan, which is beautiful. Everyone wants to learn. And how do you enrich that experience? And I think, and how do you learn from some of the data which is out there, which we can support and as you say, quantify, and we can give some experiences. And I love the thing about the players. As a player, when you're playing as an athlete, all you want to do is play. You don't want to be on the bench. You don't want to be sort of saying, sit this week out. You just want to get out there and play. And but if they can provide data and say, well, here's why we're not going to it, because there's, you might have some stiffness around your back, whatever it is, they can, and they'll measure it. They measure everything. And they say, there's potentially a red flag over these next couple of matches. We're going to reduce your minutes, reduce your training load, but that's going to help us over this next month. And then as a player, you go, okay, I can understand that. There's a logical piece to it. And then it reinforces what you're seeing as a coach or as an expert. And then you're able to back up with really empirical supportive data, which the athlete will go, okay. And then there's that sort of duty of care. The athlete goes, they're really caring for me, because if I continue doing my way, maybe I was injured and I'll be out for the next, who knows, depending upon the length of, or the seriousness of the injury. I think that's really good. And then you can pass it on to fans as well and say, well, why is Manu not playing this week? Well, you know what? He's had 16 games on the bounce. He's been averaging so many. That's why he's starting off the bench, not to do with form. We're managing the load. It's a long season. And then people come along for it and go, okay, now I get it. And I think that's what's really good.
And before it was done by feel, right? It was the coach's feel, their observation of what has been happening. Now we got there's sensors everywhere, and we know how much you're doing, how much your heart rate is, how much you've been jumping, and so every decision is going to be even more informed, because to the coach's feel and opinion, now you can add all the data to see if it backs it up. If it doesn't back up, you make a compromise. If not, maybe detect something that was not there, and a red flag that when you say, oh wow, I didn't see this coming. So this is the amazing thing. I mean, it just started by observation and feel, and now we got all the data you want to back that. Yes. I think we in sports are more used to fail. We know failure is a big part of what we do. Nobody likes it. We all hate it. We talked about it, George. I mean, it's painful, but there's no other way. I mean, I always say it, nobody or almost nobody wins more than they lose in sport. Like, you are faced with adversity constantly, and you get punched in the face in different ways. And sometimes you want to cry. Sometimes you want to hide under the table and don't come out because you feel embarrassed, that you feel like you disappointed everybody. But you know what? You've got another game next week or another season once it's over, and you just got to regroup and start from scratch. In some corporations, and especially the bigger ones, they are a little, it's natural that they're a little more risk averse. They never failed, or they failed only early on years ago. But I think if you try to fail small, like many times, but small, you create that muscle. And when it doesn't work out, then it's not so painful for the whole company. So is something that we can talk a lot about failure, George. That doesn't sound right.
We went through many of those. We went through many of those. We certainly did. And that's sometimes it's some of the deepest learnings you get. And it's hard, but that's part of it.
And this has been said probably millions of times, but it is so true. And it's been said so many times for a reason, but that's when you learn. I mean, when you win and you're celebrating and you're with the trophy and everybody's celebrating, you kind of get complacent and you are satisfied. When you are there in the trenches with your team, either crying or embarrassed or hurt, and then you start thinking and you see what I could have done different. What did I do? I mean, why this outcome? Is it just because they are better than us, or is just I could have tweaked something on my performance? What about my mental performance? Was I ready? Was I healthy? What did I eat? So for us, it's a lot of things that when you lose, you think, and you start tweaking and making improvements for the next time. That is, I mean, it's even necessary. It hurts to say it because I really struggle with important losses. But if I look back now, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever, those are the moments where I got better as a person and as an athlete.
Yeah, and you're right about the complacency, because sometimes you mightn't do that deep dive into that performance because it was successful, and you're joyous, you're holding the trophy, everyone's really, really happy. But you may have been 1 point away from being on the other side of that coin. Like you weren't, at least the margins are small.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Sometimes it drives you crazy. How the whole history changes because of one missed shot or one turnover or one bad call even.
Well, this has been so fascinating and really an honor to be on a team with both of you. So forever, I'm going to be saying that I was on a team with Manu Ginobili and George Gregan. Not to say that maybe people will think I'm an athlete too. But this has been a really beautiful experience. I really want to thank you for sharing the power of technology and AI off the field when you're thinking about fan engagement, thinking about how we really connect and create those feelings that we're talking about. Not everybody's always thinking about, well, how do we make more feelings with AI and technology? Also thinking about how do we create more organizational growth and how do we take care of our athletes too? And I think the thing that really stays with me is the power of what I would call practitioners like you who are in it, who've been in the arena, you've been fans, and you're deeply embedded in technology, and being able to look at it through your lens and that you're able to guide others with that lens is so powerful. Thank you for sharing all of your knowledge and insights with us.
Yes, it's been fun. It was a great conversation. It's great to meet you, George and Simone. I could stay here talking for forever. So thank you, and to catch you guys soon.
Be continued in Argentina.
In Mendoza.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao. Bye.
Bye.